Good day, everybody. Globalization, international culture, the seminal, singularly most important event of our time is what we call globalization. Globalization means that we just don't have one marketplace, we have multiple marketplaces. We can buy and sell nearly anything in this world through the virtue of a computer, and it can be shipped at a minimal cost. It has broadened our scope and our understanding of not only other cultures, but our world as well. And so when we talk about this concept of internationalism, globalization, competitive marketplace that has global reach, what do we mean by that? And what are some of the particulars that help us understand the world in which we live? Well, there are certain traits or aspects that make our world more international, make our world more closely intertwined, not only between cultures, but countries as well. For instance, language. Language stands at the heart of the differences between one country. We speak the same language, though a different dialect, as many other countries throughout the world, including, for instance, England and Canada. We speak a version of English. Some may call it Old English, some may call it British English, American English. Even within the United States, we have different dialects. There's a Southern dialect. People who are from New York or Boston certainly have an accent. And certain idioms, certain aspects that are unique to that part of the country. So as you look at a country and try to understand a country, language stays at the top. Second is religion. Religion is really a belief. When you use this term religion, it means that you believe in something. In fact, anything that takes the place of religion can be considered religion. To be somewhat trite, if people believe that a rock, they have faith in a rock, that could be their religion. Typically, religion for many in the world is a person who maybe has lived in the past or even lives today. God, Jesus, Allah are good examples of a person, a deity as they say, that may have existed at some point, and people believe that that person has special powers, and they subscribe to the beliefs that that person espoused when they were on this earth, or when they had apostles who spoke for them on this earth. Religion has a certain character in a nation, and most nations have a dominant religion, one that most people subscribe to in that country. In the United States, it's Christianity. In England, it's Anglican. In many countries in the Middle East, it's some form of Islam. And then there's other countries that may have Buddhism, is an example that may have in the Far East. So we've talked about language, and we've also talked about religion. Food. Food is a great aspect that determines differences between cultures. We have a very laid-back food history in the United States. In fact, most people would say that our contributions to food are hamburgers and hot dogs. Fairly what we would call simplistic types of approaches. The flip side is French. French cuisine is very detailed, requires a tremendous amount of spices and many different cooking strategies and processes that you need to follow before you actually produce that product or service for somebody to eat. But food can certainly detail not only about how people eat and the method they eat, but it's also about the culture. There's some countries that their big meal is at night, and it's a very family-oriented type of meal. And they sit around with not just their immediate family, but other families, and they talk about the world in which they live in, some of what their aspirations may be. It's very much a communal enterprise. And one only has to think about holidays and weddings and other events that typically revolve around some type of food. Last we'll talk about is celebrations in art. What do we mean by celebrations in art? How is that indicative of a culture? What you celebrate says much about the culture in which you live. It says much about the country and even the region that you talk about and which you live. What we mean by celebrations and even art is if you celebrate certain days, whether it's an Independence Day, whether it's a day that is reflective of your leader, Maybe it could be the Queen's birthday. It could be a Prime Minister's annual celebration where they're sworn into office. Those are celebrations that reflect the type of people that you are. And so what you celebrate often talks about what's important for you as a people. It says a lot about your country. It says that we value our independence. We value mothers and fathers. So we celebrate those days in our country and in our culture. So that is international. That is globalization. Those are some aspects that you want to pay attention to better understand the world in which you live. What we do know is that not only is the world changing, but it's becoming more integrated. What happens in your town can be more impactful to other countries than at ever any time before. Before, you may have been isolated in your town. It no longer exists. What happens in one part of the world has repercussions in other parts of the world, and those repercussions can change that culture much quicker and in much more of a greater depth than ever before. Learn about yourself. Learn about where you live. Learn about where you may live in the future. Learn about your country and other countries. Because the future really is creating not only a mindset, but also an understanding that through understanding and appreciating other cultures, understanding the world in which we're not only living in today, but we intend to inhabit in the next year or two, having that as a firm understanding allows us to think not only more broadly, but to think about our place in this world and how we can profit from a different world that's going to exist, a world that no one thought was possible even 20 years ago. It's not only possible, it's not only probable, it is the world in which we live even today. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the day.